In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make this drawstring bubu dress that can be worn loose or fitted, as you can see. If you're interested, please watch this tutorial to the end and subscribe to my channel. So first of all, you start with your 2.5 yards of fabric that you fold into 4. And after folding it into 4, as you can see, you will draw your start line, which is about 0.5 inches from the beginning of the fabric. That is what you see me drawing there. Next, we draw our neckline. So for the neckline I'll be using, since it's on fold and I'm cutting both the back and front together, I'll be using 3.5 inches for the neck width. That's the wideness of the neckline. And then that same 3.5 inches is what I will use for the depth of the neck as well, because there will be no zip. I want it to be easy for the person to wear it. So it's 3.5 by 3.5, and I'm just connecting it into the round shape for the neckline. Next, divide your shoulder measurement into 2 and then place it on that same line. So mine is 14 divided by 2 is 7. That is what I've marked there. And then the length of your sleeve as well. So I've already calculated everything. Now from that shoulder line, that's from the start line, you come down by 9.5 inches. That will be the wideness of my sleeve. That place automatically becomes our bust line or chest line. Now that is where we are supposed to place our bust measurement. But since this is a bubu dress and it's going to be free, all you need to do is to just go back to that your sleeve area, the place you marked your 9.5, come in by 4.5 to 5 inches. Making sure that whatever you have from the center front is very free as a bubu dress. So for me, that was 20 inches. That's roomy enough for me. So come down from your shoulder line by your half length. Mine is 15 inches. So I'll just connect it with a ruler like so. That is where we'll be placing the waist measurements. These will also serve a function later. So the same measurement you have around that bust area is the one you still carry down to the waist area. Then connect, use a curve to connect it into the sleeve. The next thing to do is to mark the length of your dress. That is the desired length of your dress. So from that start line that we drew, come down by the length that you want your dress to be. Mine is 44 and that is what I'm going to mark. So you mark the length and add an extra 1 inch for folding of the hem. That is what you see me doing. Then use your straight ruler to just draw it, making sure that that hem area will be straight. Now, the same measurement that you have around the bust and the waist is what you will still carry to the hem of the dress. Since this is a free bubu gown, there will be no deductions. So just mark that same measurement down again. So mine, like I said, is 20 inches. So the hem of my dress will be 80 in total. So that's what I'm just connecting from that bust and waistline down to the hem with a straight ruler. So guys, if you are enjoying this tutorial so far, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and also turn on the notification bell so that you will not miss out on any style updates or tutorial. Now you can go on and cut out your dress following the lines that you have drawn. And at the shoulder area while cutting, please remember to leave half an inch around that area to join the front and the back of the dress together. Now I'll be using this same piece of fabric as the bias for facing the neckline or for turning the neckline. So I just measured 1.5 on a folded piece of fabric that would be long enough for me to use as bias to turn the neckline. Now you know the back and the front of this dress was cut together, so you can just separate them and then use one piece that you want to use as the front. Now for that piece you want to use as the front, you should iron it, so that gator line will form a kind of guideline for us later. Now onto facing of the neckline, just carry your piece of fabric, and if you like you can use a ready-made bias to just turn the neckline. So turn both the neckline for the front and also for the back as well. Here I have turned both the back and the front necklines and I've also ironed it. Now remember to form a crease at your center front. That crease is going to form an important guideline for us later on in the tutorial. Now we'll be working on only the front part of the dress with our emphasis on the drawstring, so please pay close attention. Decide where you want your drawstring to be, whether on the left or on the right. Mine will be on the right. Next, get a piece of fabric that is 4 inches wide. 4 inches wide and then long enough to reach the hem of your dress, but let it stop at 1 inch before the hem of the dress. For your ropes, you can fold your bias into 2 or use the piece of the fabric, just fold it so that you can use them as your rope. Next, from your shoulder point, mark where you want your drawstring to start from. For me, I want it to start from 15 inches, which is my half length. So after you've marked the 15 inches, divide your bust span into 2. Mine will give me 4.5. Okay, so that 4.5 is what I'm marking at intervals all the way down to the hem. So mark that 4.5 inches all the way to the hem and then connect it with your ruler. I hope you understand what I did. I came down from the shoulder line by 15 inches. That is where I want my drawstring to start from. And then I divided my bust span, that is my nipple to nipple measurements, into 2, giving me 4.5 inches. And then I just placed that 4.5 inches from the center line on that 15 inches point and then marked it all the way to the hem. Next, open up your fabric as you can see me doing. Now the piece of fabric that we cut the other time, iron it to form a crease as well at the center. That is our drawstring casing. So the crease that you have at the center of the casing should match or align perfectly on top of the line that we drew down to the hem just now. I hope you can see what I'm doing. So let that crease, let that center, that is the crease, match exactly on top of the line that we drew just now. So I'm just going to pin them down at intervals so that it will not stress me while I'm sewing it. And like I said, it should be 1 inches above your hem so as to have enough space for you to fold your fabric at the end of the day. After pinning it, just take it to the sewing machine and sew it all the way down at the center. Here I've already stitched it down at the center as you can see. Then just get your ropes, and I measured my ropes and they were 30 inches long. That is long enough for me, but depending on the length of the dress you are working with, your rope can be longer or shorter. So the next thing we are going to do after that is to insert our ropes into the casing. So for that, you put the rope into the casing as you can see me doing, then pin it before taking it to the sewing machine. Of course, pin it, making sure that the top of your rope and the top of your casing are together. After aligning and pinning it as you can see me doing, the next thing you do is to take it to the sewing machine, and then you're going to just make sure that your rope is totally encased in the casing. And when you are sewing, make sure that your sewing machine does not step on the rope so that it will not interfere with the drawstring effect. That is why I've taken it to the sewing machine to demonstrate how to sew it for you. So make sure that your rope is at the same point as the top of your casing. Okay, then from that center area, that's that center line that you stitched on the casing initially, just make a reinforcement, that is, sew at the top, making a reinforcement stitch to make sure that your rope does not fall out or have any issues later on. At that top is the only place that your sewing machine is supposed to have contact with your rope. So make sure you hide your rope inside the casing and then fold the casing like this. And by the time you are going to be stitching all the way down to the hem, please, like I said, make sure that your sewing machine does not sew on top of your rope. If not, it will not have that drawstring effect. It will not ruche as it's supposed to be. So to demonstrate how the ruche effect is supposed to be, I'm just going to draw on only the one rope that we've sewn so far. So you see how beautiful our work is turning, and it's only one rope that we've done yet. So just loose it back and then take it to the sewing machine and do the same thing that you did on one side for the other side, making sure that your sewing machine does not make contact with your rope along the line. So it should only stitch and make contact with your rope at the top. Here I'm done making it for both of them. Okay, as you can see, so we are basically done with our dress almost. And here is the ruche effect with the double strings or the double ropes. So what we are going to do next is to join our shoulder, that is the back of the dress, to the front at the shoulder area. So with the right sides facing each other, match the shoulder of the back to the shoulder of the front and make sure that they align perfectly. Pin, then take it to the sewing machine and sew for both of your shoulders. Here I am done sewing the back and the front together at the shoulder area. So the next thing we are going to be doing is to fold our sleeve to knitting it up as well. So fold the sleeve by your half and half, that is your 1 inch allowance that you left for the folding, and do that for the other sleeve as well. Give it a good press so that it will be neat and beautiful too. So now that we are done, we are almost done with our dress like we said. The next thing to do is to turn it inside out, as you can see me doing, then pin all the way around. So start pinning from the sleeve area. When you are done pinning the sides, just take your dress to the sewing machine and then sew it by the 1 inch seam allowance that you have. Now I'm done joining the sides and then I turned it inside out. You can see that our dress is already taking a very nice shape. The next thing we are going to do now is to fold the hem of our dress using that 1 inch allowance that we kept at the beginning of the tutorial. So just take your dress like this and then fold your half and then half again to just make the hem of our dress neat. And when you get to the drawstring area, you know we stopped 1 inch before the real hem of the dress. So just use that 1 inch to also hem it, and be careful around that area when you are sewing. You know our dress can be worn either fitted or loose. So for that fitted effect, you need ropes inside your dress. So for that, come down by 15 inches or wherever you want your rope to start from, and then using the crease that we have at our center front as our guideline, divide your waist measurement into 4 and mark it on either side of the crease. So my waist measurement divided into 4 is 9.5. That is what I'm marking to the right, and then also I'll mark it to the left of my crease. That is exactly where we are going to be placing our ropes. These ropes should be placed on only the front part of the dress and not on the back. So just measure your rope to make sure that you have about 25 inches, which is the length I'm using. You can use more, you can use less depending on your body size. Then picking the front of the dress like you see me doing, place your rope directly on the point where you marked your waist measurements on each side of the center front like that. Just place your rope on top of it, pin it, and then take it to the sewing machine to stitch it down in place. So that is what you see me doing. I'm just pinning so that when I take it to the sewing machine, I'm going to make a stitch to just hold the ropes down in place. And with that final step, we are done with our dress. So like I said, you can wear it fitted as a free bubu like this, or you can tie your rope inside to make it a fitted bubu like this. Thank you so much guys for watching to the end. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you in my next tutorials.